Okay, I'm now back from the bee yard, and I've successfully switched out the honey supers and stored the old ones back in my tool shed, and I've also put the extraction equipment out in the yard, and the bees are busily cleaning that right now. So now I'm cleaned up again and finally ready to move to the next phase, which is bottling. This is one of course, the most enjoyable parts of the whole process. Um, there are a couple of different kinds of bottles that can be used, in fact, many. A lot of people use 1 pound bottles, I guess maybe because customers like to buy a fairly large amount of honey, and that's a standard amount to sell it by. I personally have always liked 8 ounces. I just think it's a much nicer size, and of course, your honey goes further if you divide it up into 8 ounce bottles. So they look like this in the glass form, and they're very handsome bottles, um, sort of thin on one end and widened in the front. This is nice because it has a nice surface, a semi-flat surface for a label. Um, I like glass a lot because it's very decorative. The disadvantage, of course, is it's more fragile, and you can't mail it, I don't think, legally at least, you can't mail anything glass to somebody. So I really do like plastic. Unfortunately, my supplier was out of plastic 8 ounce bottles this time around. So for now at least, I have to go with glass. Um, and the other thing about plastic that is really handy actually is you can squeeze it. And the plastic ones have a little hole at the top. You squeeze and you get a little bit of honey out. This, of course, you have to remove it and go in with a spoon and get it out. There are some people who really insist on the glass when they're buying from me, but most people seem to like the plastic better. There are various kinds of glass bottles. This is one I actually got at a gift exchange last holiday season. I sort of won it, and it's more kind of fancier, more decorative. Frankly, I'm not sure if I like it. I'm going to try a few of these this year. Part of the problem is the surface that you put the label on is wider and shorter, and my labels are oriented kind of vertically, so they actually don't fit on here. So this presents a problem, and I'm going to have to, if I use these, I'm going to have to produce my own new labels specially for this. I only have 12 of these, so that's really not very cost effective to buy 100 labels to use on 12 bottles. But anyway, they are very handsome bottles and could make a nice, holiday gift or something for certain select people. So these are my labels. I really enjoy these a lot. I've been using them the whole time since I've been doing beekeeping. And I've actually designed them for myself and printed them out using Zazzle, which is a website that you can design labels and cards and all kinds of things. And they're pretty inexpensive. They had a couple of cute little suggested patterns. I mean, obviously, they don't cater to beekeepers, but I was able to, it took a little while, but I was able to kind of design a pattern with this little stylized bee and then my information on it and put it all on a nice label. Under Maryland law, you have to have your name, some way to reach you, your phone number or your email, your city, and you also actually have to have the fluid ounces of the amount, and you have to have, what's the other thing? I think you have to, I don't know if you actually have to, but you have to say what kind of honey it is. I've fudged this a little bit. People ask me what flavor honey do I sell, and frankly, I don't know. I don't know where my bees go. They have a 3-mile radius in which they can travel, and they really don't consult me as to where they should go. So I just call it wildflower honey, which is, I guess, technically, accurate, but it basically doesn't tell you anything. And that's how I like it, because I don't have anything I can tell you about that. So I call it wildflower honey, and I think this label is compliant. I've never gotten any complaints about it. Just a few things about judging of honey, because I do enter my honey at the agricultural fair. Usually when I have a crop, I'll also enter for the competition. This year we don't have a fair because of COVID, so everything's going differently. But I was very surprised to learn that the honey judging at the Montgomery County Fair and probably most county and state fairs has nothing whatsoever to do with the taste of the honey. And it was explained to me that that's because the taste is really very subjective. I'm not sure why that should, be a barrier to a judging event, because other subjective things like, the behavior of dogs at a dog show are judged also, and they don't let the fact that it's subjective deter them. But be that as it may, ironically, or maybe surprisingly, in a county fair, when they're judging honey, what they're judging it on is really just the appearance and the packaging of it. And it was explained to me that the reason they do that is because when people buy honey in a store, they normally aren't able to taste it, and so really they're making their decision for purchasing it on how it looks and how nicely it's packaged. And that's the philosophy. But specifically what they look for, first of all, you wouldn't have a label on it when it's being actually judged. It has to be without a label and completely clean. The bottle has to be completely clean. If there's any smudges on it or anything like that, blemishes, you're immediately knocked down in the rating. Then they have a special kind of a light that they shoot through it, and the jar, of course, has honey in it, and it's looking for refraction. And if light gets bounced off at an angle, what that tells the judge is that there are foreign particles inside the honey that are interfering with the passage of the light through the bottle. And so what you want is minimum refraction and maximum purity, really. And that's one major thing they're checking for. As I said, the condition of the bottle matters. Actually, the condition of the cap matters. And it has to be very, the rubber seal has to be really pristine, even and clean. I don't know if you can see, but this one's sort of brownish because I've actually used this for several years. This would be also a total detraction in the judging. So I would have definitely lost already with this bottle. And then finally, they're looking for the amount of fill, and it's supposed to go to this ridge, which is called a bead line. And it's supposed to, when you're holding it and looking at it end on, it's supposed to be exactly to that level and no higher. And once again, this has to do with sort of the aesthetics of it and how it looks in the store and whether the customer feels they've gotten, enough, but you don't want to go above that for various reasons. So I just thought that was interesting. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the taste. It's all about the appearance. And that's what happens at the Montgomery County Fair, and I'm told it also happens at most other fairs. So right now I'm just going to fill this bottle with some of my newly filtered honey. And I like to sit down while I'm doing it because I like to have my eyes at the level of the bottle and especially the bead, because I want to fill it to the right level and then stop. And it takes a little while to kind of get the hang of this. Sometimes I put in too much and I have to spoon some out, and sometimes I don't put in enough, and then I have to kind of gently open the valve again and continue. And I have, I think I have roughly 60 pounds, so I'll be doing 120 of these over the next probably week. I'm lucky that I own 2 of these buckets, and so the good news is I'm not in any hurry to empty these out because I don't have to return these. I do have to return everything else by Tuesday, but if necessary, I can keep all the honey in these 2 5-gallon buckets longer, so I can take my time, kind of leisurely bottle up all these 120 bottles. So usually what you want is something to catch the honey, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. And ideally you have more than one person. You have somebody who can kind of hold the jar and somebody who can release the valve. But this is also workable. Obviously, you want the clear side. Normally, I don't even have the label on it, but obviously, you want the clear side facing you so you can see how you're doing. And the other thing is you don't want to create a lot of air bubbles, so you want to sort of not have it come out too fast. So there it is. I like the way it looks. It's kind of a light gold color. I do have a lot of air bubbles in here, which is not the greatest, but there is a clever way to fix that, which basically involves setting the bottles in the sun for an afternoon, and for some reason that causes the air bubbles to rise to the top and dissipate. So as I get close to the bead, I start slowing down. Try to get my eyes on the level. And I might turn it off a little early because there's always some that comes out, residual honey that comes out after you've turned off the valve. And of course I could go over and remove it, but I'd rather not do that. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And you can maybe you can see there are a lot of air bubbles, and this again would be a major detraction in any kind of a judging event. I will fix that by just putting all of these out on my deck in the sun in the afternoon, and usually within a day, even half a day, this clears up. So that's pretty much it. Once I close this and seal it with a rubber seal, it should be protected from moisture coming in and bacteria. So this honey could last years. I actually have a jar left over from my first harvest in 2015, and amazingly, it actually looks better than many of my newer ones. It was a good crop, and it's sealed, and I'm sure if I opened it, I could enjoy it, and it would be delicious. So that's pretty much it, and I hope you've enjoyed watching this series, and I have to continue bottling these, but I've attempted to show sort of how it all goes from soup to nuts, as they say. Thank you.